Infiltration from within. The Trojan horse. Let me show you something though.
There are many ways you can subjugate a system. If you look at, for example, what the Chinese Communist Party did in Australia, they bought up all the GDP products. They bought up the dairy industry. They bought up the iron mines. They bought up all the big businesses that are at the heart of the country's economy. They do this in many countries. They go in there. They print their own money to say whatever they want to say it's worth. And they go in and they buy up natural resources, big businesses, GDP products, rail lines, infrastructure, you name it. And what happens over time is that if countries default on debts or if they let the CCP buy these things, the Chinese Communist Party gradually gains control of all of their institutions, right? They gain control of essentially the things that make the country work. And as we saw with Google just recently, as we saw with China, for example, cutting off supplies of rare earth minerals to Japan when they had the East China Sea conflict, which Japan needs for their high-tech manufacturing, we see that the Chinese Communist Party would and can use these things for political pressure. We saw them do this during the pandemic. We saw them threaten, for example, Australia to cut off different business deals, student deals with their universities, if the Australian government continued to criticize the Chinese Communist Party over its handling of the pandemic, right? We saw them do this. And what happens if the Chinese Communist Party controls your electric grid? Can you just go build another electric grid, like on the fly? No, it takes a long time. They could threaten to shut off your power, right? Very similar to what Amazon did to Parler. The big businesses, they've demonstrated that they can do this stuff. Just like Twitter kicked the president of the United States off of Twitter during one of the most sensitive times of his presidency, when he had the Capitol siege and Trump was saying, "Be peaceful, go home," and Twitter removed his posts. Who's to say that big companies from other countries, and keep in mind a lot of these big tech platforms are multinational companies anyways, they're not necessarily American companies, multinational companies, Chinese Communist Party companies in this case, who's to say they wouldn't just say, your services is cut off, we don't agree with what you're saying, you've offended us, and it violates our terms of services or something like that. Boom, right? That is one way they can control a country, controlling the infrastructure. And for those of you who don't remember on this, we talked about it a while back now, Biden got rid of the Trump policy that would forbid the Chinese Communist Party from basically taking over our energy grid. He changed that law, got rid of it. All right, folks, let's talk about what's happening now with
Joe Biden got rid of a law to protect America's power grid from China. But President Donald Trump is the enemy.